So we have our brass fitting cut, and I'm going to show you the adhesive here in just a moment. This is the JB weld. And this brass fitting that this slides into is also the exact size I did for the inside of Mush's head for the cap to slide onto, which is really nice. So what I can do is I'm going to put this about halfway through down the wire, and this stuff's pretty strong. And if I hold this and bend, this is now going to create like a little crimp. So that way I don't have to glue this piece onto the armature wire. It's just going to stay on the aluminum wire. So now I can put my head on and off of here, no problem. And then I could take the cap. I'm not going to use, this is too flimsy maybe for that. I would do its own block, maybe this size here. I would go in here and grab this piece here and go down, because I don't want the armature wire to pop up through the top, right? Not that it would hurt anything, but for this particular purpose, I'd do that. Okay, here's my little stand, ready? Fingers crossed, no disaster happens. Take the head off, come over here, and at last, remember I said I've been meaning to do this for quite some time. Now you can see why. Now I can actually work on this dang thing. And it's not very strong, so I have to be really careful the wire's not, but there we go. Now I can set his hat down and work on it. I'd probably reinforce this with some other wire, of course, because it's like really wobbly. It would just bend if I barely bumped it right now. But what I had been doing is I'd been setting my piece down on some wax paper on the ground or on the table, and it kept getting messed up. Like, it's just gonna happen, right? You can't set something down and assume with cats and roommates and family and everyone, or even yourself bumbling around, that you're not gonna bump this with something. So from one little piece of brass stock now, pretty awesome, we have the ability to take the pieces off from models we're working on and set them down without having to do too much. Right. Cool. All right, so that's your brass fittings. There's a whole bunch more, but let's move on to the eyes and friendly plastic. All right. Yes, eyeballs. So here's the Kraken Thulu creature again. So brass stock in, I would embed, drill some holes for each of the tentacles, or I could put the tentacles on and off and then finish the body and then have that be painted. But what you'll notice here is the inside of the 3D print. You want to go ahead and come a little closer for this one. Is we have a bunch of glass eyeballs. So if you go on Amazon and type in glass dragon eyes, and you'll see right in here, there's 1, 2, 3 sockets, and then 1, 2, 3 here. This was meant as a prototype. You can still see all the lines in the 3D print. So it's not a high quality print, but I just wanted to do it as a test. And the test came out so nice. I was like, oh, this is fun. I'm just gonna, use this. But here's all the little eyes I have for it. So I just put them on some masking tape. And I picked out the little glass eyes. So if you want to order eyes, you can get a whole pack, I think of 144. So I think that's 72 pairs of eyes of all different sizes and all different colors. And, some of them are kind of like, these are a little more trippy looking. There's ones that are like more cat's eye. But the dragon eye one has a good variety that's kind of generic. Here's the eyelid that I dremelled off and cut off. So here's what the eye looked like originally. Right, so I just cut that off, and then I have to grind down in there, set this eye in there, and put over the top of that. So here's what the pack of eyes look like. So maybe come back over top down for this one for a moment. There we go. So, oh, gross, there's hair. So this particular one, I've already sorted the bigger, like the large and the medium ones, with all the small ones. Right, just to make it easier on myself. I'm grabbing and working on a smaller miniature like this, pretty cool. Right, and I went to the Monsterpalooza, the Monster Convention I mentioned, and I saw a lot of professional pieces that clearly are using these dragon eyes, so they're pretty decent. They're good enough. Making your own eyes from scratch with epoxy and stuff, that's a super advanced method. That would be a class all by itself. But there's your eyes. So order some glass eyes, dragon eyes, for 10 or 12 bucks. Maybe find a friend to go in on a pack. Maybe a few of you could chip in, and that way you'll have all the eyes you'll need for many, many characters to come. So here's what it looks like to get the eyes and the teeth kind of done. This is a speed sculpt done with just the super soft monster clay. So I just did this in a night one day as a sample, and I kind of liked it, so I might keep working on this character with some different clay. But this is done with dragon eyes in there. You can see how it sets in nicely. And the spines and the spikes and the whiskers are done with what's called friendly plastic. So our friendly plastic, it comes in pellets. You can get a jar of it for $12, $10, $12, I think. And you drop it in some hot water, like tea water, and you can then bring it out and shape it. So all the fangs and teeth are done with this. And what's cool is you stain it, or it's got like a clear translucency to it. So if you hold it up to the sky, you see the light refracts through it a little bit, almost like a realistic tooth. So they use this in film. And professional, I learned this from Patrick McGee, who did a lot of the masks for The Walking Dead. So a lot of those zombie masks you see are done with just simple plaster molds and latex and friendly plastic for the teeth, which I thought was pretty cool. So yeah, that's eyes and teeth to bring your characters to life, and friendly plastic. You can also attach things with heavy earth magnets. So the head for the stop motion puppet, again, I highly recommend the making of Paranorman behind the scenes. It's really cool how they make, so you can make a little face, and then behind the face I had started to embed the heavy earth magnet inside the epoxy, but this was my first experiment, so I'm gonna resand this and refinish it and reattach the magnets. But with the magnets, heavy earth magnets, I believe they're called neodyne. I always forget the scientific name, but neodyne magnets. If you type in heavy earth magnet, you can get a bunch of different sizes. So I have collected a whole bunch of these over the years, and they are super strong. And they even have some of the pieces that have a hole cut in them, so that way you can put a screw. And actually, I use them a lot in the studio for hanging things and putting up clips and whatnot. Let's see if this is gonna obey and come out for me. Maybe it's not going to, but but anyway, there's a heavy earth magnet. So if you have one piece in your model with a magnet and the other piece in, you can actually go in here and you can attach them. And you can put the clay or whatever over the top of that. And that way you have the pieces interchangeable, and it also swivels and rotates really nice. So I could experiment with the heavy earth magnet on the sea piper creature here. So when I go to add the muscles and claws, maybe at the end of the armature wire, I could adhere the heavy earth magnet on the end and then put another one in the wrist, and that way his hands would be easy to pop on and off, rather than going through and putting the brass stock in there. This would be another option that you could do. So a pack of heavy earth magnets, super fun to play around with. And here's my little magnet tree over here. I keep them on a galvanized steel pipe, and yeah, I'll show you some other uses for those in the masks and things like that. So let's look at gluing and adhering these things together. So you'll see the next step you're going to do is connecting armature wire to itself without just using a simple wrapping tying method that we looked at so far. We looked at twisting or twirling the armature wire, and then we looked also at twisting one piece of armature wire around another. But there are adhesives. So this is the JB weld, and this right here is the steel stick. So in the next portion, we're going to mix some of these things together and actually do some surgery, as I call it. So beyond these little quick testing samples, we have this character, which, there he goes, was once going to be a gnome, and then he got so big and buffed and barrel chest I had to turn him into a dwarf. And so you'll see his leg here is not stable at all. I had to clip off one leg, and I'm going to attach the other leg. So this would be what I call a surgical maneuver, where you have to go in and fix the skeleton or the bones of your miniature, so that way it still has the stability that you need. So you'll see it's wiggling in here and wiggling over there. And then also, you know, when you attach the arms to the torso like these, you usually you don't want the rib cage to bend too much, because our rib cage does not bend or flex. And you usually don't want the pelvis to move or bend. So usually it's the thorax at the sternum of the chest and down at the pelvis and down. If you don't want it to be interchangeable and move, you want it really firm at the base would be the other place to use the adhesive. Okay, so